values. We are here to spread a better understanding of our shared values by bringing back, reminding the people. And this is why the Quran is called al-dhikr. Inna nahnu nazzalna al-dhikr. It's remembrance, something that you had and that you forgot. So much so that the difference between al-qalb al-salim, the sound heart, and al-kafir has his heart or her heart veiled. There is something beneath that is not seen, and to believe is to uncover the veil. Come back to the source. إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ, the sound heart of the origin. Rahmatan lil-alamin brings the people back to the source. And if, as Muslims today, we are not able to be understood and to make clear that this message is a universal message and we have shared values, it's not because of the message, it's because of us. Because we are obsessed with differentiation. We are not like you. That's wrong. In fact, we are like you. We have a human brotherhood. And human brotherhood, al-ukhuwa al-insaniyya that we have, it's in the Quran. Ya ayyuhan nas, O people. Not only ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha. It's to the people. We have a human brotherhood, sisters and brothers in humanity. This is Islam. And it's only now that we are rediscovering that in Nawawi in the 14th century was referring to لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحبه لنفسه. You are not going to complete your faith if you don't love for your brother what you love for yourself. And what he said, your brother is your brother in humanity. Meaning the people of other faiths, people, human beings. So if we are not able to translate the universality of this message, it's because we don't know our message and we don't know how to convey the message. It's not the fault of the message. The message is clear, our minds is confused. The message is clear, our minds, all our minds are confused. And we are driven by emotion and always saying, I'm not like you. We are Muslims, and you know what? You are kuffar. That's the wrong way of starting. We start first, we are human beings, and we have shared values. And by the way, you know what? It's not for you to go to anybody and to say you are kafir. You can't say that. You know why? Because you don't know what she or he knows about Islam. Al-kufr is to know the truth and to reject it, and you don't know what they know. So you better keep quiet about judging people and be serious about the way you understand your message. It's much more about your own responsibility than judging the people. This is the first step here in our understanding, and this is why I think that we need to come back to Rahmatan lil-alamin means we have universal values to share and nothing to impose onto people. And we are coming back to the source of our message. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said, and we have to take this as our own responsibility. We cannot just blame the world not to understand us. We have to blame ourselves first, not to know how to express ourselves, because there is a lack of education, lack of understanding, and we don't know how to translate our values. Having said that, if we come to what are the shared values that we have, and why am I starting like this? You might think, oh, he's far from his topic. He's not talking about jihad. And in fact, I want to put jihad within the overall concept of human beings. It's very important to understand that this is one thing within a global message. Don't extract jihad and talk only about this just in an apologetic or defensive way. Make it something that is understood in the global message. And the people are going to understand. You know, I'm sometimes now dealing with people of other faiths saying, you know that you are indulging jihad. Say, what? Say, yes. You are doing exactly what I am doing with other words, but it's exactly the same. We are, and this is why we have it in Islam. وَلِكُلٍّ جَعَلْنَا مِنْكُمْ شِرْعَةً وَمِنْهَاجًا. You have a way and you have a methodology, but we have the same values. These are the same values with other ways to translate them. But we have to come to the value instead of struggling on terms and concepts. Come to the essence. Come to the very deep understanding of what we are talking about. And there is something here which is very essential. Look at this. Everywhere I go, talking to Muslims as well as talking to people of other faiths, if you come to Islam and we start with something which is essential in our understanding. In the concept of Islam, the first thing that we have is al-fitra. Fitrat Allah allati fatara an-nas alayha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Ibn Ashur in his word on al-maqasid is saying we have to come to the fitra to understand the objectives and the overall objectives. Look at this. Look at this deep mind, understanding that it comes from the intimate, universal, that you get the universal of values. The intimate universal first. Meaning what? Mircea Eliade, who studied all the religions, was traveling around the world, and he said, wherever I went, I saw people seeking the truth, looking for the truth, they wanted the answer. El-Fitra was defined by the scholars. Look at all the scholars as this natural yearning that we have in our heart, looking for the truth. We want an answer. Why are we here? Go along the world and talk to the people, and you will see that this fitra is the intimate universal. We agree on that we have a question. And we are in trouble as long as we don't have an answer. We are not at peace if we have a question with no answer. This is al-fitra. Al-fitra is looking for an answer. Fitrat Allah التي فطر الناس عليها لا تبديل لخلق الله. And Allah is talking to all of us. Am I far from jihad? No, very close. I'm even within. Because the first jihad that you have is going to be the jihad of the quest for meaning. I want an answer. I am looking for an answer. So to get this answer is an intellectual jihad, is a spiritual jihad. We translate this as effort, but you will see that it's deeper than that even. Now, if we come with this understanding, and we talk to people and we come to this understanding, there is something which is very important. Something that we share with the Greek tradition, the Jewish tradition, and not with the Christian tradition. Something which is essential in our fitra is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us innocent. We are innocent. There is nothing like original sin in Islam. And the Jewish tradition is like us. The Greek tradition is referring to this. And all what we have now in the West is stressing on our innocence. Be careful. One of the main problems that we have in the West with religion has to do with the way religion was portraying us as guilty. By definition. That you are somebody who is not good. In Islam, it's not this. We are innocent as long as we don't have the reason to decide. So this innocence, this original innocence, is so important that in everything in al-mu'abalat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, we give you a tayyibat. Everything is good for you. And even in al-mu'amalat, al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. The first principle in Islam is permission. Trust what is good. And everything is good in al-mu'amalat as long as you don't have a text telling you it's haram, which is the other understanding of the Muslims today. We start with haram and we are looking for the halal. While in Islam, with al-mu'amalat, everything is halal except what is written in al-mu'amalat, social affairs, as haram. So it's an open, we are trusting the world because we are trusting the Creator. So this understanding that innocence comes first is لا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. You are not going to bear the mistakes or the faults of anybody else. You are responsible of what you are doing. Very important. So it means that everything which is said about Islam, that it's all about community, that you are lost in the community, that's not true. If you come to Islam, you are personally responsible. You can't, the day of judgment, say, my father, my mother, my kids, my brother, you. وَكُلُّهُمْ آتِيهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ فَرَدًا. You are alone. You have to respond. That's very important. So you are responsible of your own innocence, and one day you have to respond to this. That this is a concept. Go everywhere in the world. Talk to the Confucianists, talk to the Buddhists, talk to the Jews, talk to the Christians, and come with this and say, is there something which is not logical in what we are saying? This is a universal message that we are sharing, that you are responsible of what you are doing. All the liberal democracies today are starting with this point, that it's an individual responsibility. And this is Rahmantan lil Alamin, is to come and to bring back this personal responsibility by saying, yes, you have rights. Yes, you have rights. And look at what is going to come from our message. You have rights, but you are responsible of the way you deal with your rights. That's the way we have to deal with a responsibility. Who said that? Gandhi, when he got the first draft of the human declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, he got it before it was written and said. And he said, after a few months, he responded to the guy who sent him the text. He said, I'm sorry for the delay, but I just wanted to add something that my mother taught me, that with every right you have, there is a responsibility. That's a universal message. That's what we are standing for. It is Gandhi's Islamic statement. Halal one. But this is exactly where we stand. This is the universal message. So come to Rahmatan lil Alamin means we are dealing with this. We are dealing with this deep message, a concept of human being. And you hear in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ قَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We gave dignity to human beings. Scholars were asking, where does this dignity come from? You have all the scholars. You can start from the philosophers. You go to Al-Kindi, to Al-Farabi, you go to Miskawayh, you go to Al-Isfahani, you go to Ibn Taymiyyah, you go to, before him, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, you go to Al-Shatibi with Al-Maqasid. What are they saying? They are saying that the dignity of human beings is two things. The first is knowledge. عَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. It's the fact that you are getting knowledge. The second is your freedom. Freedom, you are free. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Two features are determining our dignity as human beings. We are people of knowledge, being of knowledge, and free minds, free intellect. We have to choose. That's the starting point. Why? Because at the same time, Allah is telling us you are free, you are full of knowledge, and you will have to take your decision based on knowledge. Which decision? The way I created you, you are going to choose the right path. قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ. Say, I believe in God and follow the right path by doing what? By doing what is nurturing your being. What is nurturing your being? Something which is universal. Go to the yin and yang, to the Buddhist tradition, to the Jewish tradition. Something that you find in Islam is just confirming what was before us and just saying, this is the way you are. وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. That's the universal message. We are created with two attractions. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, زُيِّنَ لِلنَّاسِ حُبِّ الشَّهَوَاتِ, that we are attracted by the desires, instincts. This is natural. Any one of you who is attracted by the world is not a natural human being. It's not because Allah doesn't love him or her, it's just he's a human being. And then what he's saying, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ حَبَّبَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْإِيمَانِ وَزَيَّنَهُ فِي قُلُوبِكُمْ. You are also attracted by transparency, truth, and well-being. You have the two. And you are innocent, but you are free, and you have a mind, and now you have to decide. This decision, based on your rationality and your faith, is something which is universal. Wherever you go, you won't find anybody saying, what are you talking about? I'm innocent, I'm free, I have knowledge, I have to use my mind to decide which path is the right one. That's the universal message. And we mean by this that I am responsible of my own destiny in the light and before God. Rahmatan lil Alamin means come back to this. Come back to what we are talking about, the values. And then you come with this understanding, this concept. It's only with all that that you are going to understand the meaning of jihad in Islam. Not as something which is marginal, it's the center. Why? Because with this you are saying, okay, what are you going to do with your freedom now? If you have to follow the right path, what is this right path? What are the values? The first is, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ, respect your own dignity. Not only your dignity, but the dignity of every human being. Remember the Prophet ﷺ standing up when a procession was there and the companions were astonished. He's a Jew. Is he not a human being? Meaning what? The faith that you are celebrating should never deny the being from which and in which he was created. Your respect towards creation comes first, then your differentiation of religion, if you understand. He stood up. How many of you today in 2015 would stood up if a Jew is dead? Just come to this. Come to the reality of our discrepancies. Very good message, deep knowledge, and very superficial understanding. Because here we have to differentiate. Yes, I'm going to stand up in front of any governments, Muslim majority countries or Israel. The same. You are a dictatorship, you are a terrorist state, I'm going to stand up. I don't differentiate between your religion, I look at your principles. You betray Islam, you betray human rights, you will find me. In the name of my community. You just were saying, one ummah, be careful. Not blind support to the people of your ummah. There is nothing blind in Islam, because you have to use your mind and to look at the principles. A Muslim majority country with a corrupt government makes it a corrupt government. Stand up. No way. Israel killing innocent people, stand up. But Burma, but African countries, Western countries, stand up. This is the real understanding of what we are talking about here. This deep understanding, follow the right path. And help your brother or your sister when he or she is right, or when he or she is wrong. By doing what? Stopping them from doing wrong when they are doing wrong. That's not me. That's not the modern message of Islam. This is the Prophet ﷺ. This is a hadith. But we are not doing this. We are so emotional that everything is coming from Muslims. Keep quiet. And we end having to wait for these people to kill innocent people and to have this pressure to come now to be self-critical. This should have been done before. These are consequences of our silence. We are too silent. We end up being under pressure to say, oh, they are killing too many people. But when you kill one with injustice, it's as if you killed humanity. Isn't it this coming from the Quran? Don't you know that it's coming from the Quran? Why are we so silent? And we are blaming the world to listen to the people who are vocal because they are extremists and terrorists and violent. Stop with this. I like the Khalas, the movement that is done in France with our friend. That's not possible. We have to come to this understanding. So what I wanted to say here is this understanding of human being, innocence, intelligence, mind. We have to decide. We are responsible. What are the values we are talking about? Very important. The value of, in order to use your mind, you have to be educated. Education. In order to support humanity, you have to share and to promote human dignity for all. Second. Third, justice. Fourth, justice comes with freedom in our society. Any Muslim majority society where there there is no freedom for the citizens to decide and to choose is not following the Islamic message. Amruhum shura baynahum means you have the right to express yourself in social terms, cultural terms, political terms. You have this right. This is Islam. Now we understand, coming from some countries that were experiencing the so-called Arab Spring, that I never thought it was an Arab Spring, but that's my position. So what they are saying now, freedom comes before Sharia. Yes. It's not only now that we have to say this. First, you have to be free to decide which way you are going to choose. And let the people decide. You cannot impose the way. Why? Because the dignity of our being is also to be able to deal with this. So the freedom that we are talking here about freedom, which is essential. And we are talking about ethics also, objectives, goals that we want to achieve. What are the goals? The first and highest level of our values, objective that we have to translate in our life is also to be struggling for peace. Islam is a religion calling for peace and asking every single human being to struggle for peace, meaning you have to be ready to resist dictators and oppressors in the name of peace. You can't launch a war in the name of exploitation and colonialism. That's not Islamic. But to resist the people who are colonizing and people who are oppressing, yes, you can. Yes, you must. Yes, you have to. This is our message as Muslims. So the point here that we are for peace, we are for justice. And when you come with these values, you understand that these are shared values with all the societies, all the human beings. And by bringing this as a commitment that you are ready to struggle for this, you are sharing these values with the world. And this is where you can see that you are sharing so many values. When it comes to justice, and you go to the Western philosopher, you can see in Islam everything which is said about al-adla is something that you can find in Kant philosophy, Rousseau's philosophy. It's there. We are sharing values. We have to stop with this complex of inferiority that we are always better because we are different. No, you know what is the best way? Is we are better because we implement better our common values. It's completely different. Our betterness, it's not in our difference. Our betterness, it's our faithfulness to principles. كنت خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. The best community, you know how we translate this in English? We say, you are the best community, you promote the right and you resist the bad. In fact, the right understanding should be, you are the best community in as much as you promote the right and you resist, you promote the good and you resist the bad, and you believe in God. It's conditional. It's not a given. You are not the best community by blood. You are the best community by actions and behaviors and suluk. That's so essential for us to translate this in our understanding. And there is another point here which is important, and you can see this. In fact, in Islam, and you know why I'm saying this, because we see that some people are distorting our terminology. One of the most important concepts is jihad. I will come to it right now. But just before this, there is another concept, which is the concept of khilafah. We have reduced in our understanding khilafah to a political structure. But the political structure is not this. The political structure is a translation in political terms of a concept which is wider than this. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the angel and say, I'm going to put a vicegerent on earth. And the vicegerent means something which is important here, is you don't have the ownership of the creation. You have to respect. The owner is him. سَخَّرَ لَكُم مَا فِي السَّمَوَاتِ. He gave this as a gift, and he will ask you about what we have done. And by definition, Muslims are sharing with all the environmentalists the same concern. We are very close to the Native American. When we saw the American and the colonizers coming, you say, you know what? We thought that we were belonging to the land. and you think that the land belongs to you. We think that the land belongs to him. The land belongs to him, and we try our best to serve him by using the land. Very close to the native. We don't have this, everything is for us. And we do whatever. No, even with your body. Anyone who is telling you, this is my body, I do what I want with it, the same, you might be wrong. Be careful. It's a gift. The way you are treating your body is the way you respect Allah and you respect God or not. And many people can understand what you say by saying, be careful with your body. One day you are going to be asked, are you treating your body well? Are you respecting him through yourself? And this is why Adam and Hawa said from the very beginning, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. We have been unjust with our own selves. Because we don't respect you in the way we deal with ourselves. If you speak like this is a concept of life that is understood by everybody. No one is going to be, you are irrational. That's very rational. That's very spiritual. That's deep. And with this, you are free, you have new knowledge, and you have to follow the right path. And then comes something which is essential. In order to achieve this, as Muslims, as human beings, we need to be ready, to be equipped to take the right decision. And it starts from within by resisting our own ego. Resisting these attractions that we have within towards what is bad. Many of you, all of us, we are not born peaceful. We are struggling to get this peace. We are struggling to master our emotion. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ said. Man ishadid, man lam yiku nafsahu 'inda al-ghadab. When you master yourself, when you have this emotion of anger that it's coming to you. So as Muslims, we understand here that, and we are promoting this, that as human beings, we are innocent, we are free, we have a mind, and we have to decide. And the first stake is to resist what is bad in ourselves. Go around the world, talk to anybody, an atheist, an agnostic, a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Jew, a Christian. Ask him, are you not struggling with your own self to be a good person? Just find somebody who tell you no. I want you to find one human being saying, no, I am good by definition. And the only fact that he is good by definition means that there is something bad in him. Arrogance. The one who thinks he's good has something bad. This arrogance. The point here is, because we agree on this resistance to what is inside is jihad. And the deep understanding of this jihad is you are resisting yourself, resisting the bi-dimension, and at the same time, what you have to do is to reform yourself for somebody who is better. The sound heart that you are looking for is to come back to the origin, to reform. So I resist to reform, to come back to the sound heart of the beginning. So my struggle with myself is to keep my fitra at the right state of innocence and choosing the right path. Resistance and reforming. That's the spiritual understanding. And if you come to this, you understand that this is a dimension that you have to start with. But be careful. Many of our brothers and sisters, because they are apologetic, because they are not assertive, because they are not confident, they end up saying this is Islam and they don't want anything else to be taught about or talked about when it comes to Islam. No, this is the starting point. It's not the final point or the final element of the whole discussion. We have to start with this. Many concepts in Islam should be understood with their spiritual meaning to be understood afterward as their social meaning, their political meaning. We have to understand this from an Islamic perspective. And what I'm saying here is that when you start with this, and we start with this, you start to understand the deep teaching and lessons you can get from the concept of jihad for yourself. And be careful when I'm talking like this, because very often some of you, we end up being so obsessed of what the West think of us that every time we talk to ourselves, it's as if the West is listening to us. And we want to please them. And say, you should like that. I'm sorry, that's another story. I'm talking to Muslims from an Islamic perspective for us to understand Islam from within. And it's too serious just to please people. It's to be committed, it's to understand who we are, what we stand for, what are our responsibilities. And then at the same time, to talk to ourselves in deep terms, universal terms, and we know that they are going to hear what. And this is what I'm telling you. I'm talking to you as Muslims, among Muslims, knowing that what I am saying to Muslims could be understood by everybody. And this is the universality of Islam. Not to please them, but to remind them. That's different. I'm not here just to please you. I'm here to remind you of things that you are forgetting. And this is why I am a gift. When the people in the West are saying, you are a problem, say, one day you will remember that we have been a gift. We are a gift, if only we understand our religion. A gift, meaning we are not imposing, we are recalling, we are reminding. And then it comes to all what we have to do. So how are we going to translate this dimension? That we are resisting ourselves to promote the value, and then the value with ourselves of justice. You know what? I have to struggle with my own self to keep this innocence in me, to keep this al-ibaha al-asliya in me. You know what it means? I know that there are things that are haram. I know that there are things that are halal, but I know that the space of ibaha, permission, is wide. I have to struggle with myself to keep this space of mubah in me, saying it's good, feeling good, being at peace with myself, having space for communication, keeping the space of ibaha in me is a struggle, because I'm so under pressure of people transmitting to me this sense of guilt, that you are guilty. I have to keep this innocence and to stop with myself being under the judgment of my brothers and sisters. Why? Because our brothers and sisters too often are judging by the look, not judging by the heart. So I have to keep this. I have to keep in me this freedom. I have to be free. How am I going to deal with my own freedom? Allah gave me freedom. What are the external factors acting or targeting my freedom? Any type of addiction. Addiction to social media, addiction to television, addiction to politics, addiction to soccer and football, addiction, you get me? All type of addictions. This is where you have to struggle with yourself, to liberate yourself from your ego, and then first your own arrogance, your own dogmatism, your own self proud of thinking that I have the right to, this is to keep my freedom, to understand my responsibility. And now I come to the dimension outside. The meaning of jihad is central. You need to achieve your goals in this life. Freedom, justice, dignity. So how are we going to deal with that? And there is something which is essential in Islam. In your practical dimension, these are concentric circles. Start with your neighborhood. Now what you have to do is you have to pray. It's a jihad to pray. It's a jihad to fast. These are the individual jihads that we know. But you can't stop here. Now you have to realize that you have to support human dignity wherever you are, not only for yourselves, but for the people around you. And the first dimension of jihad is social jihad. Social jihad means you have to be wherever you are, people who are struggling for social justice, social equality, social freedom. Not only for Muslims in Malaysia, but for people living in this country. And this was said, and this has to be repeated. Any one of you who is only supporting the rights of the Muslims in this country has not understood what Islam is all about. The Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina and said about the Jews, "Lahum malana wa alayhim ma alayna." They have the same rights and the same duties as us, because they are our brothers and they are part of our ummah, by the way. That's a good point, huh? When you said we are one ummah, where are the Jews? Where are the Christians? Outside? That's a good point. Because the Prophet ﷺ in Medina, the concept of ummah was with all of them. So we have to be very careful. There are ummah and ummah. The same as kufr. You know that there is kufr al-akbar, al-kufr al-azghar, al-kufr, bidun kufr. Kufr is not kufr, kafir. No, they have levels. So, and this is deep in our understanding. So the point here in our understanding is this struggle. What we did, for example, with some brothers in Mauritius, I keep on repeating this, the social jihad is a jihad against poverty. And you know who were the people with us? Christians, Chinese. They came to something which is jihad against poverty. The true understanding of jihad. Resisting poverty, reforming our society for more justice and more dignity. And this is following in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. That's the point. The point is, when you come with this, we are innocent, we are responsible, we are knowledgeable, we know our principle, we start with resisting with our own self, and then we resist for the sake of our values, our shared values. Social jihad. A jihad for the name of our common dignity. And we bring into the struggle all the people of principles. It's not us versus them. It's us with our shared values against the people who are not respecting values. That's the difference. Don't be mistaken as to who are your enemies. Many Muslims who don't understand Islam are much more your enemies than non-Muslims understanding your principle. You get that? That's the point. That in the name of principles, I'm going to fight. Some of our brothers are dealing with Muslims who have no values. Corrupt people. Corrupt. And then sometimes you find people of out of faith or with no faith, with principles. The social jihad is also about understanding this. And then what I said in the discussion, and coming with this, you understand that your resistance should be multi-dimensional. The social dimension is important. And then you have to start where you are. You are dealing, you people of Malaysia, with something that has to be quite clear, a cultural jihad. There are things in your culture that are not Islamic, even anti-Islamic. In some of the way you treat people within the society, this stigmatization or cultural stigmatization is not right. Because we said, yeah, ayyuhan nas, we are all equal. If there is something in your culture promoting a differentiation of cultures or hierarchy of cultures or promoting racism or promoting a way of treating women in the right way, you have to struggle. This is a jihad within. A Muslim, a Malaysian Muslim should struggle, or he or she, against anything in the Malaysian culture that is not respecting the dignity and the equality of human beings, men and women. This is your struggle. This is a jihad, here, now. And your weapons are your minds and your heart and your understanding of Islam. Knowledge, principles, objectives. And you have to deal with it. Don't think that you are a majority country, that everything which is coming here is right. You know that, for example, one of my books was banned from Malaysia. Yeah. It means that there are dangerous ideas. What's that? Who is doing that? What Islam are we talking about? Thinking that we are protected because we ban ideas? Which civilization is building strong human being, banning ideas? Muslims should deal with knowledge and come with arguments against arguments, but not banning, this censorship is not our way of dealing. Look at what happened in the Middle Ages with Jews and Christians and people who were challenging the Muslims. They were responding, adding knowledge. So there is an intellectual jihad as well. You have to be involved in this, getting the right understanding. So this understanding of jihad, it's very important, and I refer to artistic jihad, cultural jihad, jihad for equality between men and women. In Islam, there is a big problem in the Muslims, not in Islam. In the Muslim majority countries, and you can think it's coming from, no, I'm talking to you. I have traveled around the world. I met Muslims, women and men in Muslim majority countries, here in Malaysia. If you dare to tell me we don't have a problem with the way we treat women, you are not sincere. You are not facing the reality. We have a problem, we as Muslims, in the way we treat this. Leave alone the West. Don't talk about the West. Talk about, do we understand Islam? Do we are really understanding the way the Prophet ﷺ was in the mosque? And sometimes there are some cultures that are even ahead of others. I can tell you, you are doing better than the Arabs, but it's not difficult. It's not difficult. Because what we have in Arab countries and Muslim majority countries and the Arabs, that's just not Islam. How come can we understand that in one country women are prevented from driving? I'm sorry. There is something wrong in our understanding, and this is at the center. And then you go to Al-Haram, Al-Sharif in Mecca, and what you have just around is just all these malls to spend money. It's capitalism in the center of our spiritual journey. I don't have a problem with making money. It depends where and how. But just to have this, it's the contradiction of our society. It's the contradiction and then you have the way that they are treating women. And we keep quiet. Until when? Until 200 young girls are taken in Nigeria and say, no, it's not Islamic. Because we are under pressure. The true reform and resistance is not when we are under pressure by the West. Is when we are under pressure as to our faithfulness to Allah from our mind. If your mind and your heart are not under pressure, there is a problem. Don't wait for the West to come to tell you what you have to say. Listen to your heart and your mind. Istafti qalbak, said the Prophet ﷺ, as to what you have to do. And the reform is coming from this process. This is the jihad we are talking about, and we are talking about courage. Let me come to the last point here, which has to do with, it's Suyuti when he's talking about jihad. I keep on repeating this because this is something which is important. He's talking about 80 occurrences and fields where we find the concept of jihad. Not one, not two, not three, 80. 80. So it's a multidimensional concept, you have to understand. And all what I'm talking about, even with the text, you know that in ijtihad, when you are producing a reasoning where the text is open for interpretation, dhanni, and when the text is silent, because there are situations where the text is silent. So when you are doing an ijtihad, in ijtihad there is jihad. Jihad with your mind to find the right solution. Ijtihad is the same root as jihad. Okay, so this is where we have also to be involved to try to find new solutions for our reality when it comes to facing our situation. So all this has to come. So look at what I was saying now, just to come to the last point. A concept of human being where fitra is first, innocence is our natural state. Intelligence and mind and rationality is giving us our dignity with freedom. And then we have to decide. With our innocence, we are attracted by the bad and the good. And we have to resist the bad in order to promote the good in ourselves. And then we have this responsibility to spread the good outside in the name of value of peace, of justice, of dignity, of education, of equality within our society. And then we have to struggle. And we start now and here by facing the reality of corruption, inequality, and justice in our society. We face the inequality in our cultures, cultural jihad. We face also something which is a jihad with our imagination, artistic jihad. We face a jihad when it comes to liberate our sisters from any kind of oppression that is not which is in contradiction with our Islamic principles. You get the whole thing, the whole narrative now. You can understand that it's not coming as a concept out of nothing. It's a concept within a concept of life, a concept of human being. And then there is something which is essential. One occurrence is al-jihad is called al-qital, armed resistance, armed war. And no one can deny that this is in our tradition, but it's very strict conditions, and we have to get that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَفَسَدَتِ الْأَرْضِ. And there is another verse saying exactly the same, but about religions. وَلَوْلَا دَفْعُ اللَّهِ النَّاسَ بَعْضَهُمْ بِبَعْضٍ لَهُدِّمَتْ صَوَامِعُ وَبِيعٌ وَصَلَوَاتٌ وَمَسَاجِدُ يُذْكَرُ فِيهَا اسْمُ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. So two verses saying the same. If Allah had not put a set of people against the other, the world would have been corrupt. So there is something which is a balance of power. And then the other one is exactly the same by saying synagogues, temples, mosques, place of prayer would have been destroyed. Meaning by this that there is a balance between religions as well. So what it means that this diversity is not something that it's an obstacle. This was wanted by God as a way for us not to corrupt the world. Why? Because absolute power of man is corruption on earth. We need to have this balance of power. What does it mean? It means that you will have people who are going to oppress, to exploit, and to attack. The dignity of our humanity is also to resist. We have to resist. In the name, because some in this struggle between the good and the bad are going to follow the bad. You have to be here to resist the bad. So this resistance in Islam is legitimate resistance. But we have to be careful. In Islam, and you know when the Prophet ﷺ sent Usama, he was 20 years old, and all the companions were surprised that he put so young, in front of Abu Bakr, Uthman, all people who were just the giants of the community behind Usama. Usama is going to lead. That's good to know, by the way, for all our leaders. Sometimes you have to leave. Sometimes you have to give the space for, and this is a problem that we have around that we need to talk about. We need to remember what the Prophet ﷺ did with leadership. The diversity, young people, old people, and using the people depending on their skills and their experience as well. And he sent them, and he gave him some advisors that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq repeated afterward. Now you are going to a war. You are resisting the oppression, but you have to be quite clear. You will not kill any woman, any child, any religious man in the field, and you are not going to destroy nature. Ethics of war. Meaning, yes, you have to resist. Yes, you have to resist the oppressors. And now when we talk like this, are you going to find anybody on earth who is going to challenge this? Isn't it the resistance in France, the people who are the dignity? The resistance in the States, the people who defended the right values, these are the people that we are cherishing everywhere. As Muslims, we have to be clear. It's right to defend our dignity, our societies, and to resist oppression. And this is the call coming from Allah. Some of you, some of the people in this humanity are going to attack you. They are going to oppress you. They are even going to colonize you. Resisting colonization is a right, nothing else. And anyone who is justifying colonization, you would say, never. You will never accept colonization, and it's a right that we have for autonomy, dignity, and freedom. No colonization. So this legitimate resistance is also based on the means that we are using. And we have to be very clear on this. Ethics means of war means that what is our ultimate goal? Why are we resisting? وَقَاتِلُوا الَّذِينَ يُقَاتِلُونَ. You have to struggle against the people who are attacking you. وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا. You have to respect the limits. This is in the Quran. Don't go beyond the limits. Target the army. Target the people who are targeting you, and use the right means. And in the ethics of war that we understand as Muslims, the means that we are using should be as ethical as the goals that we want to achieve. The means should be ethical. ما بني على الحرام فهو حرام. You can't use wrong means for a right cause. Never. So targeting innocent people, what we see now with Daesh and the so-called Islamic State, all the means are wrong and all the understanding is wrong. And we have to challenge this by saying we condemn this, condemning what happened in the States. And by the way, be careful not to condemn only what happened in the West, please. Stop being apologetic. I condemn New York, Madrid, London, Paris. What about Syria, Nigeria, Morocco, Jordan, Palestine, Indonesia, Afghanistan? Condemn everything. And also when it comes to non-Muslims, you have to condemn this. You have to stand to by your principles. That's so important that we should not be selective in our condemnation. And we are not here to condemn on a defensive way by pleasing the West. Now you have to condemn. I'm not going to waste all my life condemning to please. I want to resist with the right principles and to come to a deep understanding of our contribution to the world. And what should be our contribution now? Just to say that we condemn this? No. You know, just after September 11, the week after, and then in the following weeks, with George W. Bush, he said something which is up to now, and even in France, we were not far from it. It's you are either with us or against us. And I was thinking, they are putting us in a situation when we have to condemn and apologize, and that's it. Don't add anything. And if you add anything, they say, we got you. It's always yes, but. And now I'm telling them, no, it's yes and. Because the situation is much more complex than what you want to say. No, George W. Bush, the Muslims around the world, and by the way, the global South, not only the Muslims, they don't have a problem with your values. They don't have a problem with democracy. They have a problem with your discrepancies, your double standards. The problem is with your policy, not with your values. You want to reduce the struggle to a question of civilization. We bring to the table the question of consistency, principles, and objectives. We bring to the table, even in France, this is what we need to be an added value in the struggle. So the intellectual jihad that is needed with the West today, our rahmah to the West, is to refuse to let the West being reduced to something which is an entity, with people saying we are either with the Western values or against. We say, no, it's more complex than that. Yes, we condemn this. Yes, we condemn all that. But now we want to talk about the reasons. There are reasons. There are political reasons. The way you are at war with people in Iraq, in Syria. You are bombing day in, day out. What is happening in Afghanistan? Your silence in Palestine. You want us to condemn with consistency. We want you to manage with consistency. We want you to tackle the issues that we are talking about. Are you not feeling today that the blood of an Arab, an Asian, is less valuable than the blood of a Western citizen? This is what you are creating, an international double standard, acknowledging the fact that there are people who are more valued than others. We don't accept that. So, you got my first point. We remind the people of our common principles. no discrimination, no double standard, consistency, and let us come to being critical with our policies. And for example, today, to be clear on the fact that what is happening in the Middle East, the silence of the international community when it comes to the Palestinians, the silence of the community when it comes to all the, at the same time, yes, we have to condemn what happened in Paris, but our voice should be clear when 2,000 people are killed in Nigeria because of Boko Haram. That's not possible. Let us come together and say it. So this is why we also have to tell them, come and let us also talk about your policy. I was the first to support and being hopeful about Barack Obama when he was elected. Now, 6 years after, drones are still killing people 400 times more than what was during Bush time. What's that? You told us that Guantanamo is going to be closed. You told us that you are going to open up to the Muslim majority countries and the Muslim world. What is happening? These were words, promises, or real policies? Why am I saying so strong on this? But as long as you have this new temptation to please the West with very spiritual talks, we are Sufi and we don't deal with politics, you are not going to be heard by the people who want their voice to be heard, and they are right. There are people who are exploited. There are people who are being killed. They are treated with no dignity. We have to have a clear political voice. We have to stand for principles. Our silence and transforming Islam into a spiritual message that has no take on dignity, justice, and struggle, it's wrong. We are giving the wrong message. We have to be involved in the discussion. Yes, we are for the democratic principles. We are with dignity, and this is because we are with these principles that we'll find partners in the West, partners in Africa, partners in Asia, partners around the world to come to the democratic values and challenging everyone, Muslim majority countries as Western countries, on one only parameter: consistency with the values that we share. And this is where we are going to be listened by the people. But too many Muslims today are so apologetic that they end up translating Islam into a spiritual message that is far from being involved in this. That's wrong. That's not going to help us. Our answer to these young people who are leaving Malaysia, leaving Western country to go there out of frustration is also to hear us saying, we are with you with your frustration, but these are not the right means. You have to do is to be involved in your society. What you have to do is social jihad. What you have to do is a better understanding of your religion. What you have to do is a better understanding of the complexity of the political issues, and not the simplistic ways that I'm going to kill kuffar. So we have to be involved in this discussion, not to reduce this. This is our responsibility. We need a strong political discourse based on the common principles that we have, the deep understanding, and this is where, as Muslims, we should deal with al-qital, and being clear on some of the means. No, it's wrong, and it will always be wrong to kill innocent people. It's wrong to kill children. Even in our struggle everywhere, these are position of principles that we have to keep as Muslims, and then you will see that with this discourse, which is a discourse clear as to our sources, clear as to our principles, clear as to our goals, what do we want to achieve. Because at the end, the ultimate value of Islam is that we are spreading peace. But we know conditions of peace are dignity, freedom, and justice. Wherever you have no dignity, no freedom, no justice, you will never be at peace. You will never get that peace. So we are agents of peace, and we know the struggles that are needed for that. So this is the way we put this. Can I tell you something? Now, I'm talking to Muslims, I'm talking to us ourselves from within. If you were talking with anybody around the world, your fellow brothers and sisters in humanity, do you think that there is something that I said that is not understandable? Do you think that they would say, that's completely, you are an extremist? Only the people who don't want to listen. But if you listen with your mind and you listen with your heart, this is where we agree. And Islam is here. Rahmatan lil Alamin is to come back to this. The West, the powerful. Even in China, by the way, it's not only the West. Be careful with what is happening now. The very important economic power, which will have a very important power. The shift towards the East is important. And in all this, are you only going to try to protect ourselves, or do we have to add something into the discussion? I think that we have to add. We have to add and to remind the people with these principles. That's all important. Our added value, our mercy is don't forget humanity. Our mercy is don't forget dignity. Our mercy is don't forget equality. Our mercy is don't forget the spiritual side of everything. I'm dealing with the West day in, day out. And I see also people coming from China when they come to Africa. And there is also something I am a gift by bringing back to the table the discussion about spirituality and the meaning of life. At the end, what is this meaning of life? What are we here for? This is why we are a gift. A gift with courage, a gift with consistency. And I would say to our sisters and our brothers, today, it's a question of courage as well. It's a question of autonomy and being confident. We should be full of hope, and I keep on repeating this to Muslims. Stop looking at yourself from a negative perspective. Be positive. Say Alhamdulillah. Say Alhamdulillah and struggle. Not Alhamdulillah and sit down. Say Alhamdulillah and be courageous. Say Alhamdulillah and face corruption. And please don't be Muslims by proxy, waiting for a charismatic leader to do the job for yourself. That's the problem of authority that we have. We are looking for names and people. We go and we follow them. No. We follow them only because they follow and they implement principles. So in fact, we are with them in the name of the same principles, not behind them. Don't look for a charismatic leader. Look for a right man, a principled soul, somebody who is courageous and translating your principles into action, and be with anybody who is trying to do that. That's the future, men and women. And may Allah help us, inshallah. Wassalamu.